Hi, my friends. We are on chapter 11, the all-girl posse. The Runaway Dolls, written by Ann M. Martin and Laura Godwin, illustrated by Brian Selznick, published by Disney. So let's see what happens. Annabelle, calm down, said Elsie Pad. Remember, don't worry, be happy. How can you not worry about this? Replied Annabelle. It's worrisome. If you want to worry about something, worry about how you guys are going to get home, said Dakota Jane. She shook her ponytail. I'm worried about that too, cried Annabelle, and now I'm worried that one of us will disappear before we can figure out how to find our way back home. Excuse me, I couldn't help overhearing you. Annabelle turned to see Angelica approaching. Really, I didn't mean to eavesdrop, said Angelica. But Annabelle, I think you should try to accept the fact that you're here for good. I've been here longer than any other doll in the store, and as far as I know, no one has ever escaped from McGinty's. Annabelle had a sudden inspiration. Maybe the missing dolls escaped. Maybe that's what happened to them. Angelica, Dakota Jane, Elsie Pad, and Marisol, standing in a ragged line before Annabelle and Tiffany, shook their heads. I don't think so, said Marisol. No way, said DJ. Impossible, said Angelica. Nope, said Elsie Pad, and added, Annabelle, remember, the dolls here want to be sold. They want to go to their forever homes. You guys are the only ones who want to escape. Besides, Elsie Pad waved her hand around the store, and Annabelle knew it was her way of saying, how could a doll get out of McGinty's? There must be some way, said Tiffany. It couldn't happen during the day, said Elsie Pad. How would you go down the escalator? Without being seen, added Marisol. It couldn't happen during the night, said DJ. There's a watchman downstairs. Stationed right beside the entrance, added Angelica. Really, said Elsie Pad, the only way out of here is in a paper bag. What? Said Tiffany. Someone has to buy you, Angelica explained. Annabelle cringed. That was not going to happen to her, or to her sister or brother or Tiffany or Bailey. They were not going to leave McGinty's after all this time only to wind up in the wrong house. That does it, said Annabelle, and she stamped her foot. We have to get out of here. But how are you going to do that? Asked DJ, who, Annabelle thought, looked intrigued by the thought of escape. Annabelle wanted desperately to impress her, but she felt her shoulders slump. I don't know. She glanced at Tiffany. The main problem, said her best friend, is not that we don't know how to escape, it's that we don't know how to get back to the Palmer's house. At the thought of the Palmer's house, Annabelle nearly let loose a sob. It was at this awful moment, feeling helpless and trapped, that Annabelle became aware of a low hum. What's that? She asked. What's what? Asked Marisol. That sound. Marisol turned in a slow circle, and her eyes settled on the shelf of Dr. Sue dolls, each wired to the back of her cardboard box along with her doctor's kit and plastic animals. The shut-ins, said Marisol. I think they heard about the disappearance. They're spreading the word among themselves. Annabelle listened hard and realized that the hum was a chorus of muted voices. Gone, she heard one doll say. Gone into the night. Into the light, said another. What, in a fright, said a third. Can't hear you, said a fourth. After a fight? Pardon, said a fifth. A fight? Who had a fight? DJ leaned over and whispered to Annabelle. They can't hear very well, not through all that cardboard and cellophane. They're apt to spread rumors, added Angelica. Annabelle looked from the nervous shut-ins to her friends and then up and down the aisle. She realized that unlike the previous nights when the atmosphere in the toy department had been cheerful, almost celebratory, the dolls now seemed subdued. Where's the baseball game? Tiffany asked. No game tonight, replied Dakota Jane. No one felt like playing, said Elsie Pad. Besides, a bunch of the boys have formed a posse, said Marisol. A posse? What for? Asked Annabelle. And Tilly May looked up from her seat on a miniature rocking horse to say, What's a posse? It's a group of men the sheriff can call on to maintain law and order, replied Dakota Jane, twirling a lariat. Tiffany made a face. A group of men? What men? And what sheriff? Asked Annabelle. Well, there's no sheriff here, of course, said DJ, although now that I think of it, someone should make a sheriff doll. A woman sheriff doll, said Tiffany. But who's in this posse? Asked Annabelle. All the Bailey dolls and any other boys who want to join, replied DJ. They're calling themselves the Bailey Boys, said Elsie Pad. Said Tiffany. I wonder just which Bailey had this all-boy idea. What are the boys going to do? Asked Angelica. Look for Mom Funcraft, said Marisol, and the other missing dolls. And make sure no one else goes missing, said Elsie Pad. They're guarding and patrolling, said DJ. How come only the boys get to do this? Asked Tiffany. What's wrong with girls? Elsie Pad shrugged. Nothing. The boys had the idea first. Well, doesn't anybody think this is wrong? Girls can guard and patrol just as well as boys, said Tiffany. Better, spoke up Tilly, and everyone turned to look at her, but she was busy combing the horse's mane. Yeah, that's right, said Dakota Jane. Tell everyone about Selp, Annabelle said importantly to Tiffany, and Tiffany did so. Wow, said Elsie Pad, Dakota Jane, and Marisol. Angelica looked fascinated. I never heard of such a thing, she said, not in all my born days. I propose, said Tiffany, climbing on top of a building block and raising her fist into the air, that we form an all-girl posse and that Annabelle and I make the rest of you. She pointed at Angelica, Marisol, Elsie Pad, and Dakota Jane. Temporary Selp deputies. Our mission will be to search and guard, protect and patrol. Are you in or are you out? We're in, cried Annabelle, Marisol, Elsie Pad, Dakota Jane, and Angelica. Angelica added, I never dreamed I'd be deputized. I'm in too, said Tilly May. Annabelle smiled at her. You can be a junior deputy. Okay, let's go round up some more girls, said Tiffany. Wait, before we start, said Elsie Pad, we should have a briefing. What? Said Tiffany. The dolls who have been here the longest should give you new dolls the lay of the land. Tiffany looked highly impatient, but she stepped off the block. All right, I guess that makes sense, she said. Let's start with the night watchman. You said he's stationed by the entrance. Does he stay there all the time? As far as we know, answered Dakota Jane. She turned to Angelica. Has he ever come upstairs? Angelica shook her head. Not since I've been here. Then that tells us two things, said Tiffany. We don't have to worry about running into the watchman unless we go downstairs, and the watchman isn't the kidnapper. Okay, what else do we need to know? What about Charlie and the cleaning crew? Asked Annabelle. Where do they go after they've been in the toy department? Everyone looked at Angelica. I'm not certain about that, she said. I know they don't come back here, but I guess they could be anywhere else in the store. Well, the good thing about the cleaning crew is that they're noisy, said Tiffany. We should be able to hear them before we see them. We'll just have to keep our eyes open while we're out searching and guarding. And protecting and patrolling, added Elsie Pad. Are there any other humans in the store at nighttime? Asked Tiffany. I don't think so, said Marisol, but you do have to be on the lookout for something else. What's that? Said Annabelle, an unpleasant feeling coming over her. Marisol lowered her voice and whispered, Rats! Rats! Shrieked Annabelle, and even Tiffany looked nervous. The other dolls nodded. But we haven't seen any rats, said Tiffany. Don't worry, they don't bother us when we're all out at nighttime, said Dakota Jane. There are too many of us. But they're around the store, believe me, added Elsie Pad, in dark corners and quiet places. Could a rat make off with a doll? Asked Tiffany. Maybe the kidnapper is a rat. It's possible, replied Marisol. Of course, a rat couldn't make off with me. I'm much too big. But you smaller dolls... Tiffany was quiet for a moment. Then she said, So what are the Bailey boys doing, and where are they? She looked around the strangely quiet toy department. Half of them, replied Elsie Pad, were going to the top of the escalators to try to see the first floor from there. They're hoping to spy on the watchman. They want to see if he does anything unusual. The rest of them are supposed to be searching this floor for the missing dolls. Then what I think we, as members of SELP, should do, said Tiffany, is split up, like the boys did. Half of us can search and explore this floor, too. There'll be plenty for everyone to do. But the other half of us will stay here and guard the toy department. We should probably watch the babies extra closely, since they don't know how to protect themselves. Good idea, said DJ. And so the night passed quickly and spookily. The members of SELP rounded up a large group of girl volunteers. Annabelle, Angelica, and Tilly, along with the other dolls who were old or fragile, remained behind with Marisol for protection to guard the toy department, while Tiffany, Elsiepad, Dakota Jane, and a large group of Tiffany Fun Crafts and other plastic dolls set off to search the second floor of McGinty's. Annabelle spent much of the night pacing the aisle of the toy department, hand in hand with Tilly May. She jumped at every sound she heard, every movement she caught out of the corner of her eye. But the hours passed, and Annabelle was able to call, 2 o'clock and all's well, 3 o'clock and all's well, until finally she saw the gray light of dawn through the store window. The rest of the all-girl posse spent the night roaming housewares, menswear, lingerie, and shoes, on the lookout for rodents and other kidnappers. Dakota Jane drove the truck with Tiffany and Elsiepad in the back and covered ground quickly. The other dolls, mostly Tiffany's, searched on foot. One Tiffany rounded a corner and found herself facing a shoe. She looked up. A sock was in the shoe and an ankle was in the sock. She prepared herself for doll state, and then she realized she had encountered a mannequin. Every hour, just after Annabelle called out her "all's well," DJ drove the truck back to the toy department to report to Annabelle, Angelica, and Marisol. On this spooky night, the dolls, boys and girls alike, saw spiders, moths, brown mice, and plenty of shadows obscuring who knew what. They also found in housewares a dollhouse made entirely of gingerbread, which was fun to explore. But neither the Bailey boys nor the all-girl posse saw rats or anything suspicious. And in the morning, when they gathered in the toy department, they were fairly certain that no more dolls had gone missing. Annabelle was relieved to return to the glass cabinet.